And away we go with that. Alrighty, let me share some slides that Al was kind enough to put together for us. And I've made a few adjustments to them. This first slide is an area that I really wish I'd done more with. Your division council. I mean, as Al talked earlier, this communication structure, whether you want to have an assistant for quality and assistant for growth is kind of up to you, if that's something you as the division director wants to take on by yourself. But it's not a bad idea. We all need support at every step of the way, no matter what we're doing. If you get buried and think that the world's too heavy to carry, if you have assistants, people there to help you out. And there's always people to help no matter what. There's people in the clubs, there's people in the trio, other division directors, area directors. As Toastmasters, we're always great about helping each other out, so definitely take advantage of that. The group at the bottom, the area directors, definitely have those people as a member of your council and try to meet with those people. All of us are a little different on how we like to meet. I really don't love set meetings that you don't do anything new in. If there's new territory to cover, new information to share, that's great and wonderful. If you only have that once a month, then have that once a month. But always remember that you have text and phone calls and emails and ad hoc Zoom meetings. Anytime you want to get together more frequently, you always have that ability. Just because you set a monthly meeting doesn't mean you can't meet earlier than the next 4 weeks. I mean, everybody's going to get into their pace. Everybody knows how often they like to get together. It'd be nice to get together monthly, but if you find that 3 of you are at a master's club meeting and you sit in the corner and talk for a few minutes and think that you covered the bases and you chat with your 4th area director and there doesn't seem to be anything going on there, maybe you don't need to have that meeting you're going to have in 2 days. Maybe you've already touched those bases, but all of you need to work that out kind of on your own. Toastmasters club's like a family. We're all a little different. We all have different needs, wants, desires, and goals. And from the club, that springs all the way up. And something I really want to talk about throughout the length of our time together here is if we, as Toastmasters, work together and build upon our clubs and make our clubs stronger, that's going to make our areas stronger. It's going to make our districts and divisions stronger. But it all really starts with our Toastmasters. We need to support each other and help those clubs that need help and the areas that need help and the divisions that need help. And we all work together, we can do wonderful things. Our note at the bottom, Zoom's a new and wonderful thing that we have to play with. And each division has a Zoom account. So we don't have a Division E right now, which hopefully we can remedy and have a Division E again next year. But there is that resource available that we'll have to figure out how we need to work with and make available for people to use. Something else about the Zoom accounts and realignment. As Division R director, I've set up Zoom meetings for clubs in R. Those clubs aren't necessarily in R anymore. KUMC Toastmasters is an example. They're now in L. So there need to be some coordination between division directors to look at those meetings that you've scheduled for your clubs, that maybe those clubs aren't in your division anymore. Can that meeting stay just like it is? Possibly, but maybe not. You don't want to detriment the clubs in your division because some club that's no longer in your division has that same time slot. Noon meetings are very popular. Wednesdays are popular. So if R has a new club that has a meeting from noon to 1 on Wednesdays, that club that's now in L is taking that spot. So maybe we need to do some shuffling and create some new meetings. That's something you might want to think about as you talk to your clubs and see which clubs have their own company resources and don't need to borrow Zoom, or some clubs have purchased Zoom accounts. But we'll need to work on that coordination to make sure those people that want their online meetings have the availability to have them. And unfortunately, you can't schedule one meeting over the top of another. It'll notice that count has something going, and it'll try to kill that existing meeting to join a new one. So we definitely need to do a little bit of coordination there. I try to open this box so I can actually see everybody and still see my slides. And just yawn or nod if I get to be very boring, because there is that possibility. So like I said, reach out to those Toastmasters. I wish that I had personalized emails instead of, I'm going to send out all the club officers at once. I'm going to send out to every single person in the division at once. You know, an email later will go out to Andre and a few other people in ATOS and congratulate them that last night they became President's Distinguished because they gained an extra member, and that threw them over the top to get that extra point for their President's Distinguished. So I will start trying to follow my own new thoughts and single those people out. Hey, you know, this is something you did. It's not an email blast, not a form letter. Because people really don't do well with those. I find we talked about frustration earlier as an area director. My frustration was the clubs didn't want to talk to people. There were some clubs that don't even like to talk to each other. But it's really hard to get that communication back from the clubs. So maybe being a little more personal, maybe it not looking like a form letter will help foster that a little bit. But if we can get our fellow Toastmasters talking to each other, get our clubs talking to each other, and as Joan pointed out, helping members in her club want to be district leaders, maybe we can spread the word and talk a bit more, and maybe people will be more willing to reply to those emails. And something that everyone needs to keep in mind is that email that you put in your TI profile is that email that we get to see. In a little bit, we'll look at where we can gather that information. But that's where we get that. So if people aren't paying attention or put an email account they rarely ever look at is that Toastmasters contact, then they're going to miss important information. It's nice to remind folks that, hey, that email that you want to receive information needs to be that one in your profile. And you might talk to those people that like to opt out so that you don't see who they are when they earn awards. It makes it hard to give somebody a congratulations if you don't know what they've actually won because the report shows you no name. So as division directors, you help the district at large with different admin roles. You're supplying support to your clubs, to your area directors. As Al talked about, the area directors being that mentor, you're kind of in that same boat as a mentor to all those clubs in your district, as well as the area directors and other people. We all have good things to share and learn from one another. Speech contest. I think we had a lot of people that did a lot to help us out this year. I know Rick and Shed went above and beyond, Terry Ann and Sam Cook, but all of us pitched together to do a great job to make those happen. You're also helping train those club leaders. And when we talk to those clubs, we learn a bit more of what they want to do, what they want to get out of Toastmasters, and help them achieve those goals that individual clubs have. And clubs achieving awards result in areas achieving awards and divisions achieving awards. Any questions or thoughts or anybody wants to add at this point? If you're going to make me drone on the whole time, we're going to be sleepy.
Yeah, this is Shed real quick. Go back to Al's thing about supporting our clubs. In training, because we, fortunately, this year we're doing Zoom and we're going to have the big district one. But in the norm, we usually have our division officer trainings set up and things of that nature. And I'm going to tell you, it takes a lot of work. I mean, it takes us months to get this stuff in order. And this is what I figure. I have 18 clubs with 7 officers. That's 126 officers that I have under me in my division. Now, when you have those officers that don't like to come to training, but they want you to come to them and do one-on-one training, my thing is, and I know it's not military influence or whatever, but like I tell them, you miss out on a lot of things when you don't come to those division and district trainings, because that's why I learned so much on how to go into the system and look for things, how to make sure my name is updated on my profile to make sure I'm getting those emails from you guys when I'm hitting the triple crowns and stuff like that. But when you do that one-on-one training, they're losing a lot. And I try to encourage them. I say, listen, need to make one of these. If you can't make our division T, go to another division and try to make their training, as long as you make a division training, because you get so much out of that. Not only networking, but you get so much instead of one-on-one training where all you're listening to is what you're doing. So if of course, if they can't make it and we have to do this one-on-one, we would try to facilitate, but I'm just putting out there 126 officers and we're one person. It gets overwhelming sometimes. And so sometimes I tell them, you come up with a plan and get back with me, and then I will take a look at it, because once again, we all have lives outside of Toastmasters, because today I'm supposed to be in 3 events. I'm supposed to be at a VFW meeting. I just got a new member at my retiree council, but luckily one of the majors is going to introduce her. So, but Toastmasters is very important to me, so that's why I chose to be today.
And thank you for being here with us. And that's a good point. I mean, you may have to do some officer training that's ad hoc or to the side, and Zoom is great that way. And actually, we lost Stephanie, because I would like to ask her this question. I assume with hybrid clubs, this is something I will find out for you and get an answer back to you. I assume we can continue to do some officer training via Zoom if need be. I would assume. Can we do that, Kim?
The answer is yes at this point in time, because we don't anticipate that clubs are going to go back to normal until sometime early winter.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So it would be pretty easy to get
for a year.
It would be fairly easy to get one club, try to get all their officers in one spot, do a Zoom and cover your bases. But like Shed said, eventually we'll be able to. It'll be the fall probably, but it's great to actually get together each fellow Toastmasters, learn how they do things, and it's a little bit easier to do those sidebar chats when you're gathered together. I mean, not that Zoom lets us hold a great meeting. I've had more Zoom meetings than I can count. They really do work well, but not being face-to-face really kind of is lacking sometimes.
Right, but Shed had a great point, Dan, that you are doing a disservice to your club officers when you train them separately, especially
Yes.
our training's going to be in the virtual world. It's kind of hard not to have an excuse unless you have something else planned, like a graduation or a vacation. So those should be
They should be really well attended.
Yeah, in the past. That's our hope.
Yeah. And it is nice when you break out as individual officers to talk about those things that people do a little differently. Like the ATOS meeting last night, the evaluations are a little different than ATOS. It's a great thing to pick up and take back to your club. Blue Jacket actually evaluates the tabletop. It is unusual, but great. Just a 1 to 2 minute speech. You get a quick, hey, you did this well. You might work on this. I mean, like I said, clubs are like families. There's little things that we all do different, and we all learn from each other. Just different ways that we give speeches, we learn from each other. So take advantage of learning from all those folks around you that you can. I mean, and as Shed pointed out, we do have lives, and there's tons of stuff going on. And I could easily say, hey, I wasn't the division director I wanted to be because I worked too hard. There's some truth to that, but we have to find that balance. Yes, we're not paid to be Toastmasters, but it's something we want to do because we enjoy it. Find that balance. If you're happy with family, you're happy with work, happy with religion, if you're happy, you're going to be a better Toastmaster. So when you do spend that time as a Toastmaster, you'll enjoy it. If I'm hangdog and grumbly, I'm not even fun to be around in general when that happens. But I'm really not going to be a good leader, a good fellow Toastmaster. We'd find that balance that works for you. If, Jed, you've got 3 things to do today, but you've got an assistant division director, have that person step in your place. As Barb's here, along with Jerome. Jerome will be back here in a bit. You got to find that balance and do the best you can with what you know. If you have questions, everybody's here to ask. In a minute, we'll look at a slide that has some resources, but there is a ridiculous amount of information available online. Every district has information. Tons of Toastmasters have pages out there that have all kinds of information, but there's tons of resources available, and ask questions. That's probably something I'll end up doing every day, every time I talk to anybody this entire year, so I can be a better club group director, because I need to be better. I know there's tons I need to learn. And I know that all of you have things to share with. Much like Al's slide on the areas to be distinguished, divisions are distinguished, districts are distinguished, relatively straightforward, and very similar to the areas. It has to do with the number of your clubs and their achievements. Like I said, it all goes back to the Toastmaster. Us as individuals, clicking through those projects and pathways helps our club become distinguished. That helps the area, that helps the division. Your president's distinguished, half your clubs need to be distinguished, and you need to gain a club. We definitely had a rough year from the club gaining standpoint. Saw a lot of clubs slide. I looked just a little bit ago, and I'll show you again here in just a minute. Let's just take advantage of that right now. You guys see the TI site? So when you log into TI, we've all been there as members. You also are going to see stuff under Leadership Central. For those of you that are brand new to district leadership, you may not have seen much of this before. But under leadership, there's the Distinguished Performance Report. So looking at the district, we can see that we're at 84 or 85. We were at 84 just a handful of days ago, out of 103 clubs. So we started out with 103, and this is currently all we have paid. Hopefully, by this time next year, we'll be at 103 or more. If you go to the divisions, you can then follow down and see all those clubs under each of your areas. Division directors and area directors can both see this. But we can see that we don't have distinguished divisions yet or areas, because our clubs, much like everybody else, we're struggling with communicating, having our meetings online, and actually clicking through. But there's some clubs that have done really well, clubs that are presidents distinguished and distinguished. Something that has always amazed me, maybe I'm the only one, look at the number of presidents distinguished clubs. You got 10 presidents distinguished and only 3 select and 3 distinguished. So there are more presidents distinguished clubs than there are the other 2 categories available.
Bind.
I'd like to take advantage of these folks and help these folks and the others, which goes back to all of us working together. If we can share those things that we have learned. There's one club out there that has 15 new members just recently. It's a corporate club. It's a little bit easier to do that in a corporate club. But I want to reach out to those clubs and say, hey, how'd you do this? Of those things that helped you do it, what can we share with other folks? This is an area that you guys will use quite a bit. You can come to the reports, which really there should be more here, but there's only 2. But you can get every member in your division if you need to send out some kind of a division-wide blast because you have a training coming up or a contest coming up, or if you just want to target your officers, and those export into I think they just come into a CHV file, yep, or a CSV file, but you can then put that into Excel and massage it into whatever format you want. But come out here and bang around when you get a chance. If you're brand new, you won't have a chance to have that access until the 1st of July, but for others that already have the ability to go out here, go out and bang around. You can't break it, and see what information is out there for you to find.
I wanted to remind everybody, Dan, if you have a second, that I did send the DCP report broken out by the new divisions to everybody as of June 6th, so you can at least look back to where we were on how those clubs are doing. So that's part of the exercise we'll do this afternoon as your division success plans. Right, there it is.
I think this is the one you sent out. Yeah, great information.
It is correct.
Yep. Yeah, so definitely take
Like I say, it's 2 weeks old, but still, it gives you a pretty good snapshot of where your clubs were just 2 weeks ago.
Yep. And when the first time somebody told me to go out here and look at these daily, weekly, the first division, when I was an area director, the division director was like, I'm in these all the time. I was skeptical at first, but there's tons of great information here, tons of great information to help you help your clubs, help your area directors.
Hey, Dan,
Uh-huh.
this is those reports should shift over sometime around between the 15th and the 21st as we finish up the year for this year before the dashboards turn over to new
Okay.
alignment, etc.
Alrighty, thank you.
You'll be able to see them in the reports, I think.
Right. That's why I wanted to get those out for the past year, Kim, so that at
Yep.
least people know how their clubs are aligned. And I also put in there, people can put their meeting times in there so they can start to plan their first visits.
Yep, great job.
And there also is this club alignment information that if any of you don't have, let me know. And I can send that out to you to let you know, just like the spreadsheet told us where clubs were, this will tell us where we're going to be in the new year. So if that's something you guys don't have, let me know and I will send it your way. Any questions about numbers of clubs and how that growth works?
I've got a number of clubs in my division that are already dissolved, like downtown, and there was another one, and they're still in my base. So it's going to be a challenge to have no net club loss.
That's for sure.
Downtown won't be in your base because it dissolved this year, but you'll see those clubs. It'll show up again in because it's 2 payment periods. They don't pay before they disappear. So
Right, and I had a second club, a farmers insurance club, that dissolved apparently, and
yeah,
Farmers,
that's not out of my base. So
Farmers has had a tough time since Anna retired. A great lady. She definitely held those clubs together. I think that's a big part of trying to find future leaders. If it's one person in the club making it strong or one person in an organization making it strong, those people retire or find new places to be. And the corporate clubs, you really see it. They have layoffs or decide they're not going to pay the dues anymore for a club. And it really tanks the numbers if it doesn't take the club away entirely. That KMA Toastmasters, that really killed us for a while when the state was tight, the institution didn't pay our dues, there just weren't enough people that wanted skin in the game. And it's that buy-in, that being a piece of you really is very important to get people to be motivated, I suppose, just to get them started. But if we can get more people to drink the Kool-Aid, as I once said in a speech, and preferably it's not the grape Kool-Aid and you're not in Jonestown, but that Kool-Aid can be good and the fellow Toastmasters can be great. Everybody have a good idea of where we are geographically? So this is in the realignment document. This map shows what we ended up from E dissolving. And again, I want us to grow E back. Whether it's not the E it used to be really is irrelevant. I'd like to have enough clubs that we can get that division back. And I think we can do it. And you and your area directors are really those people that kind of help do that. You're out in the clubs, you're in the areas, you have an idea of where there might be a need, where we can try to gain a few clubs. Clarice, this probably looks very familiar to you. This is a wonderful map that you guys have showing where the clubs are. This is actually an interactive map that tells you a little bit about those clubs. But we're kind of spaced oddly geographically, quite a few voids. With Toastmasters and Rotary working together, I think we can add clubs there for sure. We definitely have gaps geographically. This is just a screen print from the Rotary Club of 100 miles from Emporia, Kansas. Notice how there's almost nothing in this gap, but you have all these Rotary clubs. And really, I think this map's a little off. I think there's actually more clubs here. Because I sit about right here, and there's 3 clubs within 9 miles of my house. Rotaries scattered out all over little towns everywhere. So if we can talk to those Rotary clubs about trying to form a Toastmasters club somewhere that 3 or 4 clubs can go together to, I think that can definitely help our growth, which would be good for those numbers, but preferably be good for those Toastmasters. We can bring Toastmasters to new people, which would be a wonderful thing. Something that I know I didn't tell Rick nearly enough or Barb nearly enough was remind them of deadlines. I know I did some, but I'm sure I could have done a much better job. But the year's pretty well spaced out. It's pretty well set. We know when we need to have certain things done. There's windows of time that we do training, that we have to have reports in, to do those reports twice a year. Sometimes it's hard for an area director to get to a club. If you get a chance to go visit a club and do a report, that's not only helpful to your area director, but it's helpful to us. I know that's something I did not do nearly enough this year that I wanted to. And I still wouldn't mind doing that some. So if you guys have a club that you want me to come with you to visit, now TNA, that may be a little bit of a stretch, but I'll do it if I can, but especially the metro area clubs. If you want me to tag along sometime, let me know well in advance and I will try to do that with you. This slide, this is one page out of the district leader handbook. And if you guys don't have a copy of that, yell, I can send you where you download it. But that one page 22 gives you all this deadline information, a very handy resource to go to. On this slide, I've put a link to that as well as a few other things. Anything you guys need, any questions you have, additional information you want, let me know. I will ship anything I know. If I don't know the answer, I will find the people that do and we'll get that information to you. Any thoughts, questions, discussion?
Yeah, and I think one of the most important areas for us to find more information is from each other.
Definitely.
We've got some dynamite division directors. I look at Peter and Scott and Jerome and maybe even Shed. We've got some dynamite division directors that we ought to be leaning on each other.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Rick, along those lines, what could I have done better to support you as an area director? And Barb, join in too.
Well, on the plus side, Dan, you had asked me to prepare some stuff ahead of time. You were very helpful. I always knew that if I gave you a call, you'd be there and you'd be very, very helpful. You have a low-key personality, and I kind of appreciated that. Didn't get too involved in some of the nonsense. And when the contest time came around, you were really on top of that. You really did an excellent job of making sure we were prepared for the contest and anything we needed. The thing I would have done differently, or that I saw Samantha Cook do in Division E, because I was also in that division, was that there was structured meetings once a month. I did like those. It kind of kept us accountable, kept us on the same path. And one of the things, that this is not about you, Dan, that I would like to see us division directors do is when we get to a deck meeting, that we have a common format that we're talking about issues. Joanne's done a very nice job of laying out the 3 priorities that she sees around restorative growth. And we should be talking about, club growth versus club loss, whatever those things are. And as division directors, I think we should be surfacing up what are our common problems. Whether it be a pathways adoption, how do we get pathways going? It could have been, my big one right now, obviously, and you're tired of hearing me saying it, how do we do hybrid meetings, that sort of thing. So I think there's a lot of power in the division directors, and we ought to be surfacing those issues, or at least working together on how we solve those.
Yeah, definitely.
If I add to that, I think at the international level, it comes from you all to the district level, to the world headquarters level. And if your district director and your trio, Dan, Kirsty, and Joanne, don't hear it from you, then it can't filter back to us so that we can get back to world headquarters.
Yeah, but Kim, I'd also say world headquarters needs to give us better updates on how they're addressing some of these big issues.
Right, I'm not denying that, and that this is the appropriate place for that, but I just like to let you guys know that is how your voice is typically heard the best, is coming back through the region advisors who act like the division and area directors for the districts.
So I'll come back to the common format. I would like us to make sure that in other businesses I've been in, all the division directors or all the people reporting, talking that same, I got this, ABC, and the last item is free form, what they think is most important. That way, when we're getting together, we're all talking the same issues, and they should funnel up to what Joanna said, the 3 priorities she has for this year. You know, the no net club loss, demonstrating the value of Toastmasters, and I forgot the third one, but I'm sure she'll be saying it enough times that it'll be ingrained in our memories.
I think the third is 100% pathways adoption, I believe.
Yeah, there you go. That's okay. Perfect example. How are we doing with pathways? Because you can look at the DCP, and there's a lot of clubs that have 0 pathways, check marks, and so we haven't cleared that hurdle yet. You're right.
Barb, any thoughts? Any things I could have done to support you better as a division director?
I don't think so. I mean, it's one of those kinds of things that I think the only thing that I ever asked of you that you weren't able to do is because you had a family conflict, and that was attend one of the club meetings with me where I had a little bit of a challenge with the club officers, and it was one of those situations that it was all about the same time that the COVID-19 stuff blew up, and it just, I don't know that it would have made any difference one way or another with that club.
Yeah.
They were my challenging club as an area director.
There can be those clubs. I know I had one when I was area director too. They really didn't want to. They wanted to be Toastmasters, but they didn't necessarily want to be a part of the greater Toastmasters. They wanted to be their own little family.
How do we deal with that? Yeah, is there any suggestions on how to deal with that? Because we've all had that club. I certainly had one in Division E, and they basically made it clear we don't care about that crap.
Yeah, and I wish I had a good answer for you. Kim, do you have ideas on that?
Pat Johnson, the past international president, would say sometimes you have to let clubs go. If they're not following the program, then they're not good representatives of Toastmasters. And, sadly, that's the way it is.
Yep.
We never want to lose a club, but sometimes there are clubs that we should let go of.
No, and that's actually what I put in my area director report. This club needs to shit or get off the pod, and they want to be in Toastmasters.
Yeah, I mean, there's a club out there that's been a club that we thought we lost my year, and we were celebrating the single club loss we had. No, we were celebrating. We didn't reach out to them, and they paid their dues like the 1st of July. And there's still a club that's, and people get mad when I say this, they're a cupcake club. And sometimes you have to call them out.
That's not Speak the Truth, is it?
It is Speak the Truth.
Yeah, that's my club. I just couldn't get them.
It's a cupcake club. The club should be dissolved and have their charter removed because they don't come to training, they don't do speeches.
Well, we've had some, and just to let everybody know, this is a club that's affiliated with the Unity Church here in Lee Summit. They don't meet on time. They don't do they don't do a lot of stuff. David Antelik, when he was area director, joined the club, tried. I visited more than once, tried. Doris Hardaway tried. And you finally just say, what the hell are we wasting our time for?
Yeah, and that's a club that, strategically, sometimes you have to let go. And the answers be honest in the area visit report.
Yep.
Because it goes back to the leadership of the club and the leadership of the district, and let them go. I tried. I really did try, you guys.
No, and like you said, we even invited them to come to the Lee Summit Club, and they came and showed, hey, we can do this if we want to. We don't want to.
Right.
So that's just like I say, you got to face those. You can't imagine you'll face those issues, but I certainly did.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate. I mean, all you really can do is just do what you can do and plug along. Hopefully new officers make a difference within that club, but
No, because they don't grow members. In fact, we went so far as to not put them out in meetup. And my recommendation would actually be pull them off of Find a Club, because we don't want people going there and thinking that's what Toastmasters is.
He's exactly right, because what would happen is guests would come and they'd walk out and go, what the hell is Toastmasters? This is crap.
yeah, which unfortunately makes them not look at a different club to see if they get a different take.
Exactly.
Yep, definitely.
Exactly.
Just a reminder, not only clubs, individuals.
Oh yeah.
Right. Right. And you're absolutely right. In this case, it's the guy who's leading the club. It's the toxic person, and they're never going to challenge him.
Yeah.
But like I say, Joanne, I think you just joined a minute ago.
Hey,
I'd love to
Joanne.
see Joanne,
Yes.
excuse me. I'd love to see us have that common format tying into your 3 goals. I thought you did an excellent job enunciating those last night about restorative growth and the three bullet points of pathways adoption, demonstrating the value of Toastmasters and no net club loss. I thought that was fantastic.
Sure. And Peter just asked if I could, excuse me, post that in the chat. Sorry, I got frog in my throat. And yes, I can do that.
Thank you very much. Somebody mentioned hybrid clubs. Have you guys thought about different ways to do that? Different uses of technology? And that's something we played a little bit with how we're going to do that with ATOS. Anybody have any advice for one another?
No, we thought about actually going out and buying the camera and all that kind of stuff, but then it's just turned into a chore. We've got the money on some of my clubs, just how to do that. You show it on the wall, that sort of thing. And it's a big deal for us because people are getting tired of Zoom quickly.
Yeah, but there's still going to be members of all of our clubs for one reason or another that.
That's why we went to hybrid club. You're right. The 70-year-old guy who's had the bypass, or someone who's got a pre-existing conditions they don't want to meet. And I understand that and respect that. So how do we have that hybrid so the other groups can still meet and still make them part of it, not feel left out?
The people that meet at a standard venue, it's going to be a little bit easier for them. They can have a projector in place that you can use your laptop as the camera if you have to, and then use a projector hooked to the laptop to display to the side or on a different wall those people that are attending via Zoom so that people can see them. There are tons of price point options for speakers that also act as microphones. There's some that we've used at the Med Center that cost around $120 that will cover a 20 by 14 room almost perfectly. Just one small box.
I don't mean to be anal about this. I want someone to give me that checklist because my club will say, well, someone's got to go out and buy this thing. How do we do this? I don't know. It's a couple hundred. We're going to spend $400 or $100. Tell me, this is what we're doing. This is what works. Here's the pluses and minuses. Go forth and come.
Well, that's something we could work together. I mean, find clubs that have done it, figure out what that best method is or best 3 or 4 methods, and then share that with other people in the district so that whether they can do those 3 or 4 things or some variation of them, we give them an idea. There definitely seems to be that need for a secondary monitor, whether that's an actual big TV or a projector, some kind of a speaker and a mic, which you can buy USB mics fairly affordably that work pretty well. It's a speaker mic combo seem to work fairly well. I've been tempted to buy a cheap Amazon Dot just to see if that could function as one. Although I'm afraid somebody would say Alexa 27 times in the commercial or speech, and you'd buy things you didn't want to buy. But I mean, there are ways to play with it. But definitely, if you guys pull it off successfully, share that with others so they can look at those possibilities. In technology, we're at a wonderful time when it comes to this point. There's tons of great technology out there to take advantage of. But yeah, there are going to be members of our clubs we won't see for a while for very good reasons. And others that are going to be doing handsprings to get into that first meeting somewhere so they're away from home. Because a lot of us are getting tired of Zoom, like Rick said. Anybody out there that's done it successfully and wants to share?
You talking about the hybrid?
Mm-hmm. Yep. There are ways to do it. The world we live in is created for communication. Instead, we spend most of our time telling people they can't say this or that or should be quiet. We need to encourage people to talk a bit more. I only have one.
I've been in quite a few hybrid situations. And what makes it work for me is I have a mobile hotspot on my phone, so I can activate that. And at a minimum, you need a laptop with a big screen.
Yeah.
But there are lots of ways to upgrade from that minimal system. But it should be within the competence of most clubs to pull it off.
Yeah. And a corporate club should be an advantage. I mean, they should be able to take advantage of their conferencing systems they already have as a part of their day-to-day business. But it's those clubs that aren't corporate or are low on funds that might be a bit of a challenge, but there's still ways we can make those things work.
Right, and the interesting thing is the protocols from the governing documents have allowed for this for some time. So for instance, we have a Cerner club that was doing hybrid meetings with an off-site location. So it can be done. It's just going to be, everybody's going to have to figure out what works best for the individual club. And whatever we hear from you guys, we'll filter back up, we promise.
Thank you. I really just have this one last slide, and it seems like I've really been lacking in sharing good information with you. I'm not much of a speaker. I'm more of a talker. I'd rather just sit down and have a conversation than actually get up in front of you and tell you something, and I'll never be a good lecturer, even though that is one thing I've thought about being for years as a crotchety old history professor. So, you know, like I've said all along, it's club success that leads to area, leads to the division, leads to the district. You know, we make our fellow Toastmasters happy and healthy and better Toastmasters. That's going to trickle the rest of the way. As division directors, let's try to set some goals or direction for our area directors. Those reports that they fill out will funnel back through us so that we can see that information and take it to heart, ask questions about it. The final words are definitely those of Bill and Ted's, to be excellent to one another. We still have quite a bit of time. What do you guys want to discuss? What did I miss? What did I not tell you? What do you want to know about networking with each other?
I'd like to tag in. I've sat silently for a long time here, and I apologize for that, but I'm trying to grab the expertise of the individuals on this call. And also, I see a little trickle of, you know, things from last year, how it went, and where we're at there, and frustrations and those kind of things. But I just want to be candid with you guys and just tell you, I need your help. This is new to me as far as this position. Obviously, I care deeply about Toastmasters, and I care about my clubs, and I've got a lot to learn. I'll just tell you straight, I have a lot to learn. I'm looking at some of the shortfalls, and I guess that would be what I'm going to bring up. It's not a negative, it's just a truth. And it's talking about a specific club. And so the way that we went to marketing the club meetings went from an average attendance of the clubs of almost 30 down to 12 and 11 and 9, and then sometimes 16. It would just vary. And the free fall was a bit of a paranoia, as I see it, against when Zoom came out. The naysayers would say Zoom is an opportunity for somebody to crash you, to put an obscene picture up, and things like that. So entertaining ideas, do we have a waiting room? We have to know who's coming into our groups. And the way we went to marketing that was just communicating with the members an existing Zoom account number. So you would always get on, when it was time to get on the meeting, you get on the meeting by the Zoom account number, and you're on with your merry band of 12. And there's not a marketing that goes on beyond that. And so I guess where I'm really having a challenge is on the communication piece, to make sure all members know what's going on, and that we have a format to reach out to guests even, because that was my main concern. A club that was very, very successful cut in half in attendance. And so that was part of my frustration there. So I'd like to open that up for the group as well. And this is new to me, like I said, as far as communicating through multiple clubs. I want to make sure and do the right thing and grab some best practices so I don't miss anything. You know, I text message and phone calls work great for me, but it's hard to do that with people you haven't really put your hand in their hand and met them personally, and you know who that person is. So I'm going to be asking, and right open. I'll even put my phone number directly into the chat here, because Shed, I need your help. Rick, I want to be as ornery as you are, and I already am. You just don't know that yet. But I honestly need your help this year to help my division to grow and not to have the trickle. I'm really concerned about the trickle where people, we lose members, they fall off. And under this format, it's hard to grab them back, especially if we're not communicating, hey, here's how you find us again. So I'll shut it down with that, just to say I'm glad to be a part of this team, and I need some help. Probably knew that coming in, right? Thank you.
We're always glad to help.
Yeah, I would like to say something to that, Scott. I mean, just because we're going to Zoom, I don't say that should stop your marketing. I'm still posting things on Facebook and things of that nature, saying, you know, if you want to join our meeting. But only thing is, you can't put the link. I'll just say contact me, and I will get you the information to log into our meeting. So I don't say let that stop your marketing. Here in Manhattan, we still go out to the town center and pass out flyers and stuff of that nature. Yes, we still have a lot of members that are not sold on Zoom. We just started a club here in Junction City, and Rick can attest. Probably half our members that started the club here in Junction City just have not come around to logging in on Zoom. But that doesn't stop me from marketing, though. I'm still out there putting stuff on Facebook, and we just signed up a new member not too long ago for Junction City, even though we just chartered. So I'll continue doing the thing that you was doing before Zoom, and hopefully it'll start building up the clubs again. I think once we go back to in person, your members will come back. That's my suggestion.
I agree.
And I think we may see more people just
Yeah,
people excited to get out.
Dan, if I can, Scott, some of these people are just looking for an excuse to quit on something. That's what they're looking for. They don't really object to things like Zoom necessarily, but they pick on that as a reason to leave for some reason. But I think Zoom has really afforded a lot of opportunity for growth, because you can have a member from Iowa, as far as that goes, and be a club member. You know, people can investigate and solicit membership from all their friends and relatives. I mean, you can do some crazy things and make it work for you. But I would recommend, actually, what to do is go visit your clubs, you know, with your area directors perhaps, and just talk to them individually if you've got clubs that are still hanging on, obviously, and talk to them on talk to them, just see what their goals are, what you can work out, and what they think about your ideas. And you really need a game plan that I don't have right now, but I think between the division directors and your club growth director, you can come up with a game plan for talking to these clubs and seeing what the real issues are, and not just, oh, we don't like Zoom, or we're going to see a dirty picture come up. That's nuts, you know. That's not why they left. It really isn't. All that bad publicity came from corporations that use Zoom on a massive scale. And so they were hacked a little bit, and that made the big news. And, you know, it doesn't affect little organizations like ours.
Yep, definitely. And there's nothing to keep me from standing up in the middle of a meeting and saying something stupid.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, I'm sorry, Dan.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I would like to say that I think the mistake that we're making is you need to add a 15-minute networking session. So not start your meetings right on the hour, so that your members get a little bit of a chance to network and talk to each other, because that's what we're missing today. And the same thing after the meeting. So if you have a Zoom master and the account says starting right at noon, if somebody gets frustrated and they can't get in or find the number, they're coming in late and they just give it up. So, you know, 15 minutes early, maybe even a half an hour early as kind of a best practice, gives your members some of what they're missing, as long as you don't use that for club business.
Yeah, that buffer would be great. Let's, a new person settle in, make sure they're happy with their microphone, their camera angle, all those good things.
Yep.
Early Birds Toastmasters has done that. They put it on their agenda. And so the meeting opens for chat and conversation 15 minutes ahead of time. And I think that's very positive, and they've adapted quite well to the change.
I like the idea, and it's just an idea of spitballing, but to get an email each time there's going to be a meeting, and yeah, it's a little bit of work, but it's just really like for this meeting today, very easy to go to my Gmail. It's right near the top. Click the button, you're on the meeting, and go. That's kind of as a shortfall as I see it, because if you're having to remember, oh, where did I write down that number? Got to get on Zoom, those things. It's just one more tool to make it simpler to remember the meeting, first of all, and actually access it.
For this specific issue, we have the VP of Ed send out the agenda. If it's a 2-week, meeting every other week, in the middle, saying, hey, our meeting is next Monday. We have these roles available. Please go sign up, et cetera, et cetera. And then the day of that Monday evening club, hey, here's our agenda for tonight. And each one of those includes the Zoom information in it. And it goes to all club members and any guests. The VP of membership should then take that and send it to any guests that have contacted us.
That's a really good best practice. I love that a lot. I think that would be, well, I know for a fact that's what I'm going to encourage all clubs in my area to do. And so when I'm talking about this one club, I know that's very, narrow focus, but I see it on a broader scope. If we could encourage all clubs to do that very best practice, that it would help. And everything I addressed. Yes.
Free Tostos makes that pretty easy.
Okay.
Kim?
And there's also the ability through Zoom to send an email to all of your your club members and area directors, division directors, whoever you decide to do, and actually build an event in Google. I'm just going to say these clubs that are using Eventbrite for some of this, it just adds confusion. So you're going to have to figure out what the best practice for your club is, and then make it known to everybody. I like the agenda ahead of time, just like we did in a regular club meeting, but also put it on my calendar so it reminds me 15 minutes or half an hour ahead of time. That's helpful to me because, days are busy.
Yeah, and if you can keep things in one spot instead of having to have 3 different things to use, it's always handy to have one-stop shopping.
Well, that's why sending the agenda that morning of or the day of,
Mm-hmm.
it's the last email they've gotten about the club. It's got the latest up-to-date agenda, and someone just needs to hit click on Zoom.
Just click it, yeah.
Any other thoughts or questions? Or
When I was in marketing, a PR person told me to make it easy for your person to promote you. Just make it as easy as possible. So once again, our VP of membership can then take that and forward it to somebody. Hey, Gene, you expressed interest. I want to make sure you get our latest agenda. We hope to see you tonight.
Yeah,
That's a 60-second exercise. I'm sorry.
It frustrates me every week. We meet weekly, and it frustrates me every single week because I can never find the login information.
Well, and along the same lines, you have a visitor. You send them an email afterwards. Thanks for coming. Some information about the club. This is our next meeting. Kind of keep that going. Try to make that snowball roll and get bigger, and have them come back that next time.
Yeah, exactly.
Joanne?
And also by sending it with the agenda, you're also sending a message is that we have our house in order.
Mm-hmm.
We actually have an agenda. We're not just going to get together at 6 o'clock and then figure stuff out.
That's helpful in general, but especially for a corporate club to show some organization and structure works well in a corporate setting.
I continue to use the word best practice when I talk, and I think the reason why is I like to see what works. And it sounds like we have some things out there that are working that if I'd have implemented that as an area director, would have been some positive change that I kind of missed that boat. So thanks for the shout out on that.
Those little things make a difference to a club. And I'll give you another silly example. One club I was in, and I think Joan was part of this club, we were all saying the Toastmasters mission or our objective. And we're all saying it together and it's all blah, 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 blah. And you learn pretty quickly, no, we're just going to have Shed say it today and everybody else is on mute. But when we go to Joke Master, everybody get off mute because laughter is contagious. And those little practices, you see people go, oh, okay, that'll work.
Good tips.
Well, you know, in the agile world, some clubs leave all their members unmuted. You know, the expectation is they clean out the background noise as much as possible so that you get that interaction when you're a speaker looking at the audience. Other clubs will automatically mute everybody. It's going to be what's best for your club.
I gave a humorous speech not long ago and asked that everybody be unmuted so I could hear the laughter. As otherwise, it's like, okay, did that work? Is this a really tough room? What's going on? Yeah, just we're at a distance, but we're still kind of together. But if we can't hear each other, it really seems that we're at a distance.
And you know, Al talked about in his prior session the division director or area directors being mentors. That's exactly where you start to build credibility with your club. When you say, hey, you know, I was in this other club and this is how they did this, and you might think about doing that. And you'll see people go, oh, I can see that laughter is, okay, got that. Great, let's try that.
I think Peter has something.
I would. I'd like to share something that's on a slightly different topic, and that's personal organization. So one of the things that I use is a simple program called Trello, and there are hundreds of competitors out there to make a list of everything that has to be done. 2, I keep a detailed list of to-dos in my Google Calendar, and I put in all of the links for any Zoom or other meetings that I have to go to. And then finally, I never like to lose the document, and so I have in the cloud system called Evernote, and I put everything up there. And Evernote has an incredible search function that lets me put stuff up and then get it back when I need it. And I can do that from anywhere and from any computer that I happen to be on. So those are the 3 things that I'm using to keep myself organized and on top. And I'm sure that all of you have some. So I've shared that perhaps others have something.
I really like OneNote for keeping track of instructions and how to do different things.
Yeah, I love Evernote. Evernote is like the best. And I hadn't thought of using Trello as a personal Kanban board. I actually have a whiteboard that I've done that. Hadn't really thought about that. So, but I do have a big organizer that's 18-month planner that's just for Toastmasters. Under the normal circumstances, I wouldn't do that, but just because of what I'm doing, I have to, or I get lost. Too much stuff going on.
I feel I should tell you all about my addiction. Yes, I use Franklin Planner.
I use Erin Condra, and it's like a Franklin Planner, and I had to go back to it when we went back to working from home.
Yes.
And you know, sometimes paper's the best way to do things. See, but I said this earlier, the answers are in this room between you guys, and you don't always need something coming from World Headquarters to give you direction. In fact, from a contest perspective, the districts were way ahead of World Headquarters because you guys were forced into that position. Mm-hmm. And then they just took what were the best practices and kind of implemented them. So you guys have the answers. That's who we look to, because you guys are the feet on the ground.
And by the time each contest taught us something new, and by the time we got to the district contest, we ironed most of those little hiccups out. I mean, everybody working together.
We did have a test that had some porn from an outside source displayed, and they quickly got rid of it, and from then they started using waiting rooms. So we learned, and your Zoom account's up to date.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I wanted to just mention, as for division directors on officer training, we do have district planned training events for our club officers, but we also most likely will need 1 or 2 backups, or not backups, but makeup sessions. And so we really look at the division directors to help put those together. And we are able to, do those via Zoom, but they have to be live sessions for the club officers, not something that they just look at a recording in order to get credit. So just keep that in mind, that probably in the August timeframe, you may be wanting to look at scheduling a Zoom makeup for people in your district, or not, excuse me, district division, or maybe since we can do it just through Zoom, we can have multiple divisions come together and do that as well. But I just wanted to let you know that makeups kind of fall on the division directors to work through the timing and scheduling of those.
And I think we talked about that earlier, Joanne, how,
Okay.
you know, when you have, you know, like I have 18 clubs, that's 126 officers. And when you get these onesies and twosies that want this one-on-one training, to me, like we talked about earlier, they lose out on a lot of, not only the networking, but they lose a lot of training that they could ask, you know, the district or fellow Toastmasters and stuff like that. Like I say, I've learned so much just coming to the district meetings, district trainings and stuff like that. That's how I learned how to go in the system, look for things before you guys even send stuff out. I'm like, guys, let's start getting our list in. Let's start getting this stuff in. But when someone comes and say, "Shit, I don't know how to do this," first thing I'm like, "Have you been to a training?" And when they say no, or I went on a one-on-one training, I'm like, "You're losing out, guys."
Yep.
Yes, I definitely encourage them to, you know, especially if it's online, you know, it's so easy to be able to get on and get that training. And we really hope that, you know, we'll have a higher percentage of officers this year because of that.
We're getting pretty
And-
close. You
Yep.
have something else, Joanne?
No, I did, but I forgot what it was. But yes, we are getting close to getting kicked back into our other meeting. So.
And before we go, if you or your area directors see a club that needs a coach, wants a coach, has no idea what a coach is, and you want to tell them a bit more about it, you know, please share with them or let me know, or whoever. We'll see if we can get information to them. Over 50% of our clubs could use a coach from a number standpoint. It'd be great to get that number down to 30% or 25%. But I think a lot of clubs don't know what a coach is or what a coach can do for them. So if you have clubs that have that question or anything about that,
you got to sell a coach.
Yeah.
You gotta,
And I think we're at about 70%, Dan.
Are we that high
Really?
now?
Yeah, it's a ridiculous amount
Yeah.
of clubs that need coaches.
And
hey, our next session, well, I think we're taking a break there for a little bit, but then when we get back together, we're putting you in separate breakout rooms with your area directors. And the idea is you'll be working on your division success plan. Instead of making this all talking to, we wanted to actually develop that. The division success plan. You received the DCP from, as I mentioned earlier, as of June 6th for your division. So you've got some background information there. I know Joanne has sent out the past club visit reports, area director visit reports. So the idea is get together to work on your success plan. And then when we come back together, each one of us division directors will present the highlights of our success plan and you know, some of the common issues we think we're facing.
Okay.
I think it's time for
Time
us
to
to
go
go. See you
back.
on the other side.